There's an old saying in real estate is good deals are found, but great deals are made. If you're interested in how to get a free property, wait, what? Free? Sign me up. If you're interested in learning how to get a free property, pay attention to this upcoming video. Let's go. Hey gang, how's it going? Russell Westcott here. So hope you're having yourself a wonderful day. In this upcoming video, you're about to learn some very creative ways of buying real estate, how to structure the deals, how to find the properties, how to raise the capital, and so much more. So if you're struggling to build your portfolio, in this upcoming episode, I had an opportunity to sit down with a very good friend, Trevis McConaghy. Trevis is one of those wonderful real estate investors, somebody who just gets out there and instantly implements, somebody who is extremely creative. So if you're interested in growing your portfolio a creative way, if you're interested in learning how to start scaling your business from single family to multifamily, this is the episode for you. All right, let's get after it. Hey guys, Russell Westcott here. First of all, this is Trevis. Trevis, good to see you.
Great to see you as well.
Congratulations. You just got married.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Super excited. Well, how long is, we're going to date ourselves in this interview by that, but how long has marital bliss been for you so far?
I've been married now for about 3 weeks.
3 weeks. So your honeymoon was probably to a rental place to do a renovation, to go buy some more properties, all kind of stuff like that. Do you have a honeymoon plan?
We will have a honeymoon planned. I actually have family living in Germany.
Yeah.
So they were over, so I stayed. I plan to go sailing likely in Greece in a month or two.
If this marriage thing doesn't work out, you can always take me over there.
It's going to be awesome. I want to fill a sailboat and bring all investor group and it's a tax deduction.
Okay, everybody, you heard it. Right now, we're actually going to date this. It is, what is it, to the 19th of July, 2018. That's an invitation that Trevis is putting out to everyone potentially who's still an investor 15 years from now, maybe.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. So Trevis, I think there'll be a lot of people who will know you throughout the RAIN community, but there's actually a lot of people watching these interviews that don't belong to the Real Estate Investment Network, which is a fantastic organization. I recommend everybody should probably be a part of that. You never can go wrong educating yourself, ever, bar none. Whatever you can get to educate yourself and better yourself, do it. But you're a guy in the community of real estate investors that you were kind of under the radar for quite a while. And I think you're now getting way above the radar, and some of the things you're doing is just phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's been quite a ride.
It's been quite a ride. So that's why we're having this interview, and we're gonna share Trevis with the world. I hope you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
I guess I should ask your brand new wife about that one.
Yeah, Jackie will be okay.
Okay, so I haven't met your lovely wife, but I have a feeling you probably joined the club of marrying up in the world. And
yeah, she just finished her Masters of Leadership.
Yes.
So I feel undereducated now.
Yeah, and I have to pass this along from my lovely wife. I remember you and Corrine were having a conversation, and you were telling her you were looking for someone to marry, weren't you?
Yeah.
And her first comment when I said, "You know what, Trevis just got married," she goes, "Yes, he found it finally." That has been a few years.
It took 42 years pretty much to find the right person.
To finally someone that you found worthy of has she taken your name?
Yes, she did.
Oh, good, nice.
So exciting. New adventure begins.
New adventure begins. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I usually start a lot of these conversations, and that's what it is. We're having a conversation, and just lo and behold, there's 3 cameras here, so don't get freaked out. And there's, I'm putting it out there. There's hundreds of thousands of people watching, so I'm just putting that out there. But I always like to start with a little bit of context about, who you are, maybe where you came from. I know a little bit of your backstory, but every person I've been interviewing, I actually learned more about, and that's my favorite part, is learning about who you are. So maybe just share with the audience of people watching, who is Trevis McConaghy, and where are you from, and what you're all about, and then we'll start the conversation there.
So I could call myself a humble farmer.
Yes.
And for many years I was a farmer. So I grew up in the town of Beatty, Saskatchewan.
Beatty. Okay.
Population maybe about 50 right now.
50, okay. Yeah.
I was on a farm. We're about 15 miles from Milford, and that's northeast Saskatchewan.
Yes.
So hour and a half from Saskatoon. So we're fairly remote, but we're in a very great farming area. And my grandfather had traveled around the province and lived in 3 or 4 places and decided on Milford. And we have the highest assessed value of land in the area we live in, grow great crops, have high capacity terminals. So it's great for what I was doing, which was farming.
Was.
So, yeah. And we're saying was farming. So I farmed for basically my whole life until I, shifted gears, did a joint venture, and shifted into real estate. So growing up on the farm, started buying land really early on. Actually, when I was in high school, my brothers and I both bought land, or all bought land. And from there, I kept buying land pretty much every year up until about 2012. So grew a large, successful grain farm. Interesting time to be farming as well, because all the technology changed, all the farming methods changed. More happened in 10 years than the previous 100 before that.
Right.
So it was very, very dramatic. So we grew a very successful, very profitable, well-run business. And at some point I realized it would be great for my parents to retire and I could shift gears. And farming is challenging because you can't necessarily control many things with the farm.
Yeah.
You can control amount of, your cash, as far as paying for inputs, paying for machinery. You can't control the weather. You can't control. Every year we were getting hit with, a drought, a frost, a hail, bugs, low grain prices, things completely crazy. And I said, I'd like to be in a business that I can sort of determine my outcome.
Yep.
But also I was sort of tied to the farm. So being farming, you can't go to the lake in the summer. You can't go do the things you want.
You can curl.
Yeah. So farming is great in many ways, but it's challenging. And I just said I want to mitigate a number of my risks and do something different. Not that, real estate's easy, but just changing my life. And it's been interesting.
So do you still own the farms?
So yes,
you still own the land.
Yeah. So I farmed with my parents, and we entered into a joint venture with another person.
Yeah.
And he brings a number of components to the table, as we do.
Yep.
And at the end of the year, the accountant's lawyer sorted it all out, and I'm still actually a happy farmer.
So you essentially you have the land, and he works the land.
Correct.
And you guys almost do like a split of everything that's done there in certain right. And geez, lo and behold, that sounds very familiar to a joint venture in a piece of real estate. Yeah. Someone has the assets, someone does the work, and you
all bring something to the table.
Right. And you were sharing something with me that that's another way of passive income for you. That you
it's been great.
You actually that covers all your expenses, and this real estate thing's kind of a hobby.
Yeah. So when I started buying real estate, I never needed the money, and I never have needed the money from what I do. And a lot of people, that's the major hurdle to becoming a full-time investor. They need something to fund their life. And I didn't need that. I had that. So this has just been sort of a game. It's Monopoly in real life, and I'm loving it.
So you're just the owner. You own the land. You're the lord of the land, if you will, and the people coming in essence, they're a business partner, and they do all the work and farm and gives you time and freedom to go out and do the other things.
Yeah, and it's been amazing, actually. So that's my first joint venture.
Nice, and that's well. Lo and behold, it's funny how a lot of people's upbringings in these interviews I've been doing, a lot of people's background, careers, and things like that, how a lot of these things is actually supported what you were doing before. And I bet your presentation has a lot to do when you're talking with people about raising capital. You probably talk a lot about, it's no different than if I own the land and you did the work, and, it's a successful relationship.
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting because I've never actively pursued raising capital. I've had all the people that I work with, they came to me. I didn't seek them out, and I didn't need any of them.
Yeah.
I've had enough money to fund deals. So it was quite interesting. And I said, if we can work together, maybe we can both win. And it's been really good. And
So we were just comparing notes. It's funny, two guys from Saskatchewan all come together, and Trevis and I were talking about our backstories a little bit. We know each other. We've known each other for a long time. But you bought your first place in, what year did you buy it in?
In 2000.
In 2000. And Travis goes, I beat you. Mine was 2002, I think. And so from that first place, talk to me about the first place, and then we'll take the next step from there. What was it? Where was it? What kind of thing?
So we'll back up one little stage. So I went to university after high school, and I finished my first degree. So it's agriculture economics.
Well, everybody goes to U of S to go to the ag school, go to the ag bag drag. And,
Yeah, and you get your ring. I got a nice university ring. And I loved university. Yeah. I loved it so much, I actually went back and did a second degree. So I finished a Bachelor of Commerce in 2000. Yeah. So I said, I wanted to do something more in the winter. And we had an active travel business as well. So the travel business was going, our farm was going, but I was still looking for more. And what more could I do? So I bought a suited house, and I took the house with one suite, I made two, and that became my first triplex per se.
Right. In whereabouts?
In Milford, Saskatchewan.
In Milford, yeah. What did you pay for it?
So $70,500.
$70,500 for the whole house? That wasn't a down payment?
That was the whole house.
Okay.
$10,000 down, and I had to scrape hard to find the 10 grand.
Yeah.
Because I was a poor student.
Yes.
So we spent, I guess I spent a total of $80,000 on the house.
Okay.
And it produced, maybe $1,200 at the time. Not
in
a lot.
rent, in total gross rent.
Yeah, compared to today, maybe $2,100.
Right. Well, $1,200 on only an $80,000 asset value is pretty good.
Yeah, so it turned out okay.
Yeah.
The next winter, I did the same thing. I made a suite in another house, and that one didn't turn out so well. We had problems structurally with the house. I didn't know much about that, and it gave me a real bad taste. So I actually didn't do much until about 2006. And in 6, I built a primary residence. And, I actually did it with cash.
Right.
So, but
the old fashioned way.
Yeah. So, and by the time 06 rolled around, that other house being bought in 2000, it had actually paid for itself.
Just with the rent.
Just with the rents.
Right.
And it's like, wow. So I refinanced it, and half of my payment for my new house came from my rental property.
Right. So a lot of people think that, in small towns, you can't make it work. We're still going to continue the story, because not only can it work, you've actually created a mini empire here going forward. But there are some downsides and there's some upsides and things like that. So, okay. Bought a couple places. Now you're just starting to get your feet wet. 2006, kind of built the primary residence. What has happened since then?
So still getting my feet wet. In 2007, we were running our travel business, and we ran a very large senior group tour company, and we were going all over the world and, doing very, very well run tours. So it's senior bus tours in North America, internationally, and cruises.
Okay.
So in the winter, I was traveling the world and sort of going ahead of groups, figuring out where we may go. So I've seen a lot of the world, not necessarily bringing groups, but on my own, figuring out where to bring people.
Right.
So we were doing that in 2007. I got my hands dirty. I built an office for a tour company, and we grew our tour business. So we became a larger than CAA in Saskatchewan selling trips, which is kind of cool.
I never knew that.
My dad
really
was
cool.
chartering 737s. So this is out of a small farmhouse in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So mostly Saskatchewan people, or was it kind of your audience?
It's basically Saskatchewan. So the spirit of entrepreneurism in my family is deep. Right. So, we had the farm, but then we had this travel business. So I was involved in there and growing. We were growing that business as well. So fast forward to 2010, and I picked up a cheap little house. It was actually $23,000. 23 grand. Okay. Went into the realtor to do some fundraising, and ended up walking out owning a house.
Okay.
And so that was in January of 2010. And I took a couple sort of introductory, the guys that travel around from the US, and they're selling real estate packages. So I signed up for a seminar. It was 3 days. Yeah. And just before that, I'd gotten a friend of mine and myself had been talking. We decided, okay, let's incorporate a company. And see where we can go. So we had no money, we had credit, and just about no experience, even though I'd done a few places.
And you had the credit because your business was doing okay, but it was all tied up in the business.
Yeah. So I wasn't funding my growth of my residential real estate business with the farm. Okay. It was a side. I had all kinds of ability to get credit. Yeah. So we actually started, I guess in March of that year, we picked up a fourplex. And I didn't know how to do it. My friend said,
"Where about same area?"
Milford? So the fourplex was in Milford.
Okay.
So I refinanced my first rental property, bought another little house a couple of years before that, and it was sitting there, and I just paid cash for it. So I actually put put a mortgage on it. He put a mortgage on a little house he owned.
Yep.
We had $100,000 of cash.
Yep.
And we bought 7 units and a flip house on day one with that business, with actually not having any cash.
Right. So essentially you refinance something else to parlay that into another opportunity. Okay.
Yeah. So fast forward, that small business turned into 14 doors with no money.
14 doors, which is that first seed capital, really. And you just kept refinancing and pulling out capital and just kept growing it, right?
Yeah. So at one point, he actually had been living overseas, working in Canary Wharf in London, and he didn't have ability to get credit.
Okay.
So we basically stalled that business. It couldn't go anywhere. And it wasn't that I had a bad person. It's that, it's restrictions.
Yeah.
So I set up my own company and I started growing that simultaneously.
Yeah. So with that partner, you were 14, you said 14-ish?
Yeah, it got to 14.
14, and you had a few on your own. So that was 2006, 2007?
This is 2010 to
2010,
2012.
sorry. Yes. Yeah.
So it started growing.
Yeah. So, but it's actually taken another leap just recently again, hasn't it? So we're now 2010, 2012.
So this is interesting. Yeah. So, my friend and I, and we're still friends, he grew, he could get credit and he started buying more on his own. And he said, I'll just tell you the share of the business. So I actually bought out that business and I merged it with my other company. And so that's about 2012, 13.
Okay.
And it was right around the same time I decided to go to a RAIN meeting.
Right.
And it's this interesting correlation because I'd grown my business, but I was stuck and I didn't really have money. I wasn't taking money out of the farm, didn't know how to get ahead. And I decided, I'd read the book, Real Estate Investing in Canada by Don Campbell, and didn't know much about it. And I saw that they do these monthly meetings. I Googled it. And so I actually hopped on a plane, flew to Calgary just for a one-night meeting.
Yep.
So that's a 2-hour drive to Saskatoon, a flight to Calgary, a 2 or 3 hour meeting, and then I flew back. I think maybe the next morning.
Yeah.
And so we had another farming season. So that's the summer of 12. And in the fall, I went to an acre program. And all of a sudden I realized what I wasn't doing. I realized I needed more education, and leaving acre, I had so many things I wanted to do and I didn't know how to do them.
Right.
And one of them, a 12-suite apartment building came for sale, and I wanted to buy it. And I was driving my truck, and I remember leaving Edmonton, and by the time I hit Lloydminster, so we're about a 2-hour drive, I knew exactly how I was going to buy that building.
Yep.
So the next morning, so this is a Monday morning, I phoned up the realtor, and they actually had a conditional offer on the building, and I was like, I so knew how to do it. And it's my first, big multifamily, and this would have been awesome.
Yeah.
So interestingly, as one door closed, another opened, and an 8-suite came open and a 4-plex, and I bought them both.
All in the Melfort area still?
Yeah. So I ended up closing my 12 doors. So this is late 2012.
Yeah.
So fast forward.
So we're now up to like 30, give or take, 28, 30?
Yeah, probably in a little over 30.
Little 30, okay.
I said, this is interesting. Yeah. So it actually started by...
Nice little part-time hobby.
Yeah. So when I was farming, I actually had 5 full-time staff on.
Okay.
And I was still farming, and we had our full complement of staff running a large grain farm.
Yeah.
2 lines of equipment, lots of acres, and running it very, very
treated
well.
Like a business.
Yeah. So I had 2 businesses, and one was my secondary business, which actually got really large, and my primary business of the farm.
What about the travel company? Was it still?
Yeah. So at the same time, we had been running our travel business, and we were doing about 1,800 clients a year, all over the world. And I was on the road for about a month of the year doing sales meetings. Got very, very good at sales. Yeah. We just had a great product and repeat customers, and we brought them what they needed, and our prices were extremely competitive, and everybody won. Just a big, happy family.
Right.
Our motto.
It's the Saskatchewan way.
So our motto was live the dream. Yeah. And that's actually the same motto that Don Campbell has, live the dream, or live your dream.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, I want to live my dream. So sort of the next thing that happened, I was working so hard and not much free time, still single, wanted to have a family, wanted to have kids, but this wasn't really getting me where I wanted to be. And I said, how do I change that? And at the time, my father was 71 years old. Our other employees that were also very long-term were, around the same age. And I said, something's got to change. And I could either keep growing, hire more people, keep growing the farm and really not have a time for myself, or I could change my life. Yep. And I said, it's not so bad to shift gears. And we entered into a joint venture, like I was mentioning, with our farm.
Yep.
And I went full-time into real estate.
Right. So you just did all that part-time. Oh,
yeah. So in 2013, we did a couple houses. We moved in, put basements on them. Did a couple more fixer-uppers and rent.
Well, one of the models at that time you were doing a lot was you would take houses on the farm. You would take houses and then you would bring them into town and you'd put them on foundations and put suites and stuff like that. Wasn't that one of the models that you were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was interesting. So I guess I didn't mention the story, but we'll go back to 2003, and I had closed the farm. It had 2 houses on it. Yep. And one of those houses, I subdivided an acreage from the farm. And if you subdivide an acreage with 2 houses, you're basically not getting paid for the one house in small town. So I said, okay, I want to do something with the other house. So 70s bungalow, I picked up the house and I loaded it on a truck and we brought it into town. We set it down. Yeah. And I thought, okay, I'm going to make lots of money and I'm going to do a flip house.
Yeah, literally. You picked it up and you're going to flip it.
Yeah. So we probably put 2,000 hours of work in, and I didn't lose money. I made $644.
Oh, there you go.
Myself and our farm person, neither of us were paid.
Yeah.
But what I did learn is how to wire, how to plumb, how to hang board, how to frame, and all the nuances with moving a house, rebuilding a house, structure, plumbing, and systems. So a really expensive lesson time-wise, but
tuition.
Absolutely invaluable.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I knew how to do everything. And then fast forward to when I built my house a few years later, it was golden. I knew exactly what to do.
Right.
So amazing. So fast forward, we get into 2010 and I took this course, started buying houses. Mm-hmm. So in March of that year, I actually have averaged a house every month for 7 years.
Oh, you beat my record that I had it for 5 years. I did a property a month. Look at this guy, overachiever.
And it might be 2 or 3 now. It's actually on a roll. Nice. I don't know where I'm at because it's not really about the numbers.
Ballpark, where are you at?
We're north of 200 doors.
North of 200 doors. And you're just closing on a apartment building here very shortly, start of August.
Yeah. So it's actually, we mentioned apartments, and I sat down with my girlfriend at the time, and she said, this was January of 2017, so a year and a half ago. And I said, I'd like to own 2 apartment buildings around Saskatoon, in the short term. And the short term is like 1 to 2 years. Mm-hmm. So ironically, the next morning, a RAIN member friend of mine sent me an email, and I checked it, and I actually ended up buying a 12-suite apartment building over my mobile phone the next morning. And it was a foreclosure auction. Crazy amount of money. I think I made about $250,000 on the deal.
Right.
By saying yes and figuring the rest out.
Say yes, figure it out.
And, I didn't have the money, didn't know where it was, completely empty. Had only maybe been in the town even once in my life. But I knew it was close to Saskatoon, 30 kilometers out of Saskatoon, and I closed it. So interestingly, fast forward, and now we've landed a second apartment building in Saskatoon. So 2 buildings, within that time period. In between, I closed another 5.
Wow.
So
and so you're continually just out in, is it still all most of them in Melfort in that area, or have you branched into different markets? Or
so we'll go back to the moving issue. So I started buying in 2010, 11, 12. And 2012, the market started growing, and basically I couldn't keep growing my business. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, what do I do now? And I'd moved one house, back in the day, and then I'd moved another one when I was farming, so about 2011. And I said, okay, if I move houses, I can actually buy distressed assets extremely cheap.
Yeah, on the farm, that are out on the farm, and
in some cases. And I'll tell you more later. And if I pick them up and put them in their highest, best use, I can create a huge amount of equity. So fast forward to 2012, I did one of those, and I got into 2013, and I bought one on a foreclosure. So just as an example, the foreclosure is 35,000. Yep. House built in 2002, 1,440 square feet, modular home. Yeah. So we're dealing with a 20 by 72. Yep. Picked it up, moved it. When it was finished, so very, very little work on the lot. The ARV, so after repaired value of the house, is around 140,000.
So you're adding, before costs and expenses, you're adding about over $100,000 in equity.
Yeah, so it's massive. So we might have spent 70 to 80,000 getting it ready with the lot. So
you're quote unquote netting or having $40,000 equity built in from day one. Give or take.
So what's cool is I could create this huge wad of equity, and I realized, wow, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't really grasp the whole concept until a couple of years later, talking to a friend and his peer, Paul Turgeon.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to him in a bit, but it's interesting when you start. It's like, oh, I can create money, but I can also get a mortgage and pull all my money out that I put in. And I'm like, wow. So when does this end?
Yeah.
So that particular summer, I actually did 7 of those.
Right.
And this was like, so I started basically going out to Alberta and finding houses and moving them to Milford. And this was sort of crazy.
So you literally, the old-fashioned way of you created the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? You had the opportunity where you could buy houses at a very distressed price in different areas, in smaller towns and things like that. Move them into Milford, and you actually created your own equity.
Yeah.
And then you still own them and you rent them, and you have that. And now you refinance them, pull all the capital if you've ever put any in, and you just rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
but two guys in our hair condition, our hair style, that's a very rare thing for us to say, rinse and repeat.
yeah. Well, what's actually kind of funny on this, and when you do one and then you do another and another, it's like you start creating systems, and you just know what to do, and you know who to get, and you know how the whole thing works. And if you can find a good enough deal, on the back end, you actually have created an extra 30 grand or 20 grand.
Yeah.
And what can that 20 grand do? And I realized that 20 grand can actually buy another house.
Wow.
So boom, one house actually turned into 13 houses that summer. The same money, rinsed and recycled every time.
Yeah.
Now, if you're creating $300 cash flow off of each of 13 houses, you don't need a job anymore.
And what is that, $4,000 a month, give or take? A month, yeah. So
one summer, one person, a very small team.
Right.
So sort of crazy. And I'm like, wow, this is sort of... So as the process grows, I ran out of land in my town. Yeah. So we actually, you figure out ways, and I got
That's ironic in Saskatchewan, but
yeah. So I'd found all these random distressed lots. So I go buy the city lots, and then I actually got the city lots that weren't for sale, bought them all, and then filled them. And then the rules changed, and I had nowhere to put the homes. So then what? So they needed a different style of home. So
here's Trevis with all these homes in there. I got a home and nowhere to put it.
Yeah. So it's funny when, like the game can be endless, but you got to change the game.
Yeah.
So the rules of the game change, just like the rules of the banks and the rules of.
Yeah.
So I realized I've always done a lot of education. I was flying to Investors Forum, and it's every spring in Toronto. So I flew to Investors Forum. A guy named Paul Turgeon, so Canadian multifamily, former CMHC underwriter. He was presenting.
We just had a conversation on Sunday.
Yeah, so I realized when he showed his apartment model that if you can decrease your expenses and increase the revenue, you can, depends on the cap rate, but you increase the building value massively. And I'm like, wow, this is like super crazy. So what I was doing in single family homes, adding value, could be done in multifamily.
Yes.
So I plant this idea, and I'm like, wow, this is like really crazy and really interesting. Yeah. And so I'm doing this sort of in single family. So I was buying distressed single family, pulling my money out, and also creating money. And if you could also not move a house, you just buy a distressed asset.
Yep.
I bought a $20,000 house, had it appraised at 164. Mm-hmm. And you spend lots of money, but you can do very well.
Yeah. Wow. So I got to change the cameras over here in a second, because this is just crazy. Like, you use the word crazy many times. It is. This is just phenomenal. I think this story is quite fascinating, and we are going to get to a conversation about raising capital, which we will. But I want to continue this conversation. So I'm going to just do a real quick reset of the cameras, and then we're going to continue.
Okay.
So we're here with Trevis. And we're just getting started, guys. All right, so we actually just need to get a drink of water. Trevis is starting to go on all these properties. He's buying so many properties so fast here. It's like I feel like you're being surrounded. So I'm here with Trevis McConaghy. Make sure I get that correct. And he's just sharing the wonderful story about how you've taken something that most people would probably overlook. And you've created something. You created a system. You added value. You'll never ever go wrong in any kind of system if you add value to the supply chain.
Yeah,
right? You will always make money on that.
Yeah, figuring out what the random opportunity is in the random place.
Yes.
My town is 6,000 people in Milford, and I'm rocking it.
Well, you truly, sorry, many of you might not get this reference, but and Trevis, you may not. You truly were the king of Kensington.
Yeah.
An old Canadian TV show where you walk down, Al Waxman walking down the street there, hey, king, oh, what a guy. It's like you truly were probably the largest landowner in Milford almost.
Yeah, like it's become crazy. There's some big players in my town with big buildings, but for a humble small guy, it's like
humble small guy.
And I'm kind of like under the radar.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
For now. So fast forward now, you're now doing what you did in single family. You're now taking that same exact type of model and you're applying that to apartment buildings where you're buying distressed, undervalue, adding value. Are you moving apartment buildings yet? Or?
No. So it's interesting. In my town, actually, most of the apartment buildings, the inventory had been bought by other people before I got in, and they're long-term buy and holds.
Right.
So the inventory really wasn't there. So back up in 2012, I had bought, late 2012, early 13, I bought the 12 units. So that next summer was at the same time I moved the 7 houses and bought another 7. Mm-hmm. So we were like, I was going mad in my team, like just adding inventory and it spirals.
Yeah.
So very few apartment buildings to buy. And I wanted to grow, but really the opportunity in my town to buy apartment buildings didn't exist.
Right.
So how do I keep growing?
So far.
Yeah, so I, might have bought 4 or 5 fourplexes in my town, but they're all small.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I started looking a little bit further down the road, and the town of Tisdale.
Yeah.
And that's where, corner gas.
Yes.
The corner gas was actually based on Tisdale, Saskatchewan.
Was that what it was based on?
Yeah.
Oh, it was filmed just south of Regina there.
Yeah, Brett Butt grew up working at the 7-Eleven. It's now 7-Eleven in Tisdale.
Oh, well, there you go.
So they made the jokes between Tisdale and Milford. Well, now I took a foray. I went down the road and I started investing in the town of Tisdale.
Well, we're just getting a pure slice of Canadiana history here.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the small town semantics play out, and it's, it's interesting. I needed another market where I could grow. And I invest in stable boring. Mm-hmm. I don't like resource communities, cyclical resource communities. I like stable agriculture, stable manufacturing. So the jobs are there and nothing really happens. The market slowly goes up. So I'm not dealing with, crazy rent decreases, crazy vacancy, crazy, all these nuances, which big city deal with. I removed it.
Right. Wow. Crazy story.
Yeah. So I go to Tisdale, I buy a duplex, suite house is $80,000. And this is, we're talking 2015. And it's like, this is just like, didn't make any sense. Sorry, 16. It was just way too cheap. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, okay. And then I move another house into Tisdale. So I repeated my model because now there's lots available in the next town.
Right.
So I move a house in. And ironically, the one suited house and the one moved in modular came out of Brooks, Alberta. Mm-hmm. Those 2 buildings ended up landing me 12 more units. So refied those, created enough equity in the 2 deals that I bought a 7-plex and a 4-plex. Now, what I learned is if somebody random phones you, pick up the phone, go for lunch with them, see what their story is. And, don't go there, thinking there's, an opportunity or something. And a random realtor in Tisdale had phoned me and he said, I hear you're doing some stuff here. I'd like to meet you. And I'd like to see if I can add some value and there's a win-win. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, I get a random phone call and it was these 2 apartment buildings. Yeah. And when they were appraised off the hop, $240,000 of equity. One random deal, and I closed them with needing 100,000, and I made 250 on day one.
Wow.
240.
Wow.
So that was kind of crazy.
So suffice it to say, this has been a pretty wild ride already. And I honestly think that you're just getting started. You're just getting into the third inning of a 9-inning game. Now I'm going to go down a line of questioning that we've chatted about this too. Now, in order to get to 200, north of 200 units, I know you did a lot of refinancing, a lot of pulling of capital in. You created equity, you created wealth, you did that, but you didn't have all the capital available yourself, because you said you weren't going to touch anything from the farm and the other businesses.
Yeah, and I more or less haven't.
Right? Yeah. You've lived off of maybe the income it generated. In essence, right? Draw wage.
I got a paid for farm, and it's like, there it is.
Right. So now we're going to talk about raising capital, because you have had to go get investors have come to you. Right. Quite prevalent. Now, you have a bit of different take on this. A lot of people will say, well, go out there and get out in the public eye and, rah, siscoon ball, make a lot of noise and put together a presentation and phone people up and, make all these appointments and, do presentation after presentation. And then, it's a numbers game. People will come to you eventually. You actually have a different approach. It's the opposite almost.
Yeah, it's quite funny. So when you become successful in one market like Milford, I'm probably doing like 80 to 90% of my deals privately.
Right.
I can't buy off the MLS because you can't cash flow off the MLS. So that's the multiple listing service. Yeah. And so when you get into the next town, you start doing stuff, and now it's coming into 3 towns I invest in. So there's always this huge inflow of deals, and they come so fast sometimes that I literally have too many deals for what I can handle.
Yes.
And I always show up at events, and so I found out in Saskatoon there was a group of investors meeting, and I started showing up at that group. Didn't know a soul when I started going there, and got to know a bunch of the people. They have the similar thing in Regina. Edna Keep, I'll do a shout out to her. Yep. So Edna leads a group called Prairie Real Estate Investors Group. Education based, lots of good, knowledgeable people, but it's more about networking. Yep. So you got PREG, and now the Saskatoon group is called REGS. Yep. So showing up at the Regina group, the Saskatoon group, and a bunch of small learning platforms in between. You meet a lot of people. Yep. Also in RAIN, I accidentally ended up with a few awards in RAIN. Yep. And
accidentally.
Well, I just do what I do, and
accidentally designed on purpose and taking massive action. I guess that's an accident.
So it's funny, they labeled me as a top player, and I was like, first year, and I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. And then innovative investor, I did the modular play. Well, I was just starting. I was just getting going, and I get this, and then I not talking about awards, but they gave me a top player award, and I was like, holy, this is like super cool. Most people don't even know about it. I don't even know if I told my parents, but like it's just part of the scenario.
Well, so really, you just subscribe to the fact, you subscribe to the model of being successful, taking massive action, and showing up.
Yeah.
And people are attracted to you because of the action that you take.
Yeah.
So really, if I was to say, well, what's your system of attracting joint venture partners or money partners? You really just say, I just buy real estate and more money comes to me.
Well, this is sort of it. I can land great deals. Yes. So there's no question.
Great deals. Yes.
I'm doing some things people aren't doing, and I have my own in-house team. So a lot of people will use subcontractors to do all their work. So my costs are kept right down. Yeah. That can be a detriment, and it can be an asset and a detriment, but if you get too many projects, you can't necessarily complete quickly. Right. But if I buy really good projects, the holding costs are sort of negligible in the scheme of things. We're not dealing with massively expensive property.
Right. So you really subscribe to the whole thing about just having smoking hot deals. Right. Having lots of them and having a track record and people and just sharing your story. No different than what we're sharing right now.
Yeah. And over time, you get to know a lot of people quite good. Yeah. And it's just fun. It's like people say, well, what do you have today? And well, this is what I did. But, I got 10 deals in my pocket that I could, per se sell anybody.
Deals falling out of his pocket. So really, and I had this a conversation with Thomas Byer, who at his peak was 1,100 places or more. And one of his models was always have a deal. Because you just never know who's following you or on someone on your email list that might have been there for 7 years. If you don't actually have a deal on the go right now, you just lost them, right? So always have something, whether it's on the deal on the go, but always have an opportunity.
Yeah, and I can get opportunities and people give it to me. I don't even have an email list. I don't really use Facebook. Changed my picture for the first time because I got married.
Because you got married, that's right.
So this is kind of the irony. A lot of people in the raising money world are out there doing, YouTube videos and Facebook and all this. And I'm not doing any of it, ironically.
Yeah, it was funny when Trevis was asking me some questions about, I've been thinking about podcasting. Can I use this and this? Well, Trevis, I don't think you need it. I don't think it might just slow you down from doing what you do, and that's just making deals.
Yeah, and I'm great.
And you do it the old-fashioned way of networking and meeting people and just getting out there.
Yeah, and I love it. So in our regs group, as an example, I show up and people say, I want to go for a coffee, go for a drink. And, sure. So I set up a time and I never know what's going to come out of the conversation. And one young guy in there, didn't know him before the coffee. We start talking and the next thing we're buying a house. We're buying a house with a realtor in our group. Fast forward, I actually didn't necessarily need the deal. So I wholesaled the deal to another person in the group. So he's super happy. His son's happy. So in the end, he got a deal. The person that brought it was happy. The realtor was happy, and everybody won.
Yeah,
and it's just showing up.
Well, you're so essentially your superpower is you're like a deal ninja. It's just like it's a deal assassin, right? It's just like deals find you, you get them, and then you know how to make money off them. If you don't know how to make money, they're to the side, but you have so many deals on the go. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah. And there's another sort of nuance to this is the faster you grow, it's not necessarily hard to get private money. It's hard to get bank financing for certain assets.
Yes.
And the rules have been changing so dramatically that's been more the stumbling point than anything.
Right.
So,
well, I have a presentation as part of the academy. I have an entire presentation around from an investor perspective. It's actually going back to the future. It's going to be back to having personal relationships with bankers directly, and as opposed to different networks. There's an entire presentation that I built there. But I think where there's an obstacle, there's an opportunity.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and absolutely, and you never I tend to stumble on a lot of this by accident. I'm in there, I'm doing lots of stuff, and it's like, then the light bulb goes on. It's like, okay, this is how to solve the problem.
Yes. Nice.
A recent, example is, I buy mobile homes, and I don't like old mobile homes. They essentially have zero value, but when they're placed on a lot and clean, they have value.
Yeah.
And
from a standpoint of the rent you can get, from a pure cash flow rental perspective.
I don't like the assets. Yeah. I like modular homes because the building code makes them the same as any stick-built house now. The vapor barriers, the construction is the same as a new house. So that's fine. A mobile home, not so much. So a lot of banks tend to maybe not finance mobile homes, or they might not finance small homes like 750 square feet and under.
Yeah.
And these are the cash machines. If you get little houses and you buy them cheap and you fix them up and they're great rental properties, they're super easy to rent and they produce great cash. So I love buying these assets. So the challenge I had is I cash closed a few of them and then the bank changed the rules. So all of a sudden you tie up a ton of money in some assets you can't financed.
Can't refinance, pull the capital out.
So because I deal with big banks and I actually do a lot of blanket mortgages. So I'm lumping one bundle. I got 19 small houses in a bundle and one mortgage payment. It's the only way to do it.
Yep. Is it a commercial? It's a commercial umbrella kind of package. Yep.
Yeah. So when the challenge is if you start buying a house every month, you can tie up a lot of cash pretty fast. But at the end, you don't want to be paying, 100 mortgages.
Right.
You want to be paying a few. So how do you keep doing it? And the systems are a little challenging, but I try to buy maybe 3 or 4 or 5 and then lump them into a bundle.
Right.
In this case where I had these homes, I got a joint venture partner that could get financing on cheap assets.
Yes.
And maybe undesirable to some banks, the assets.
Right.
So there's where a fit is.
Okay.
He can close assets that I can buy, right?
Yep.
That cash flow, but I couldn't.
Right. So you found somebody to qualify for the financing and you did a lot of the work, a classic joint venture, no different than the farm originally.
Same idea.
Okay, so a couple lines of questioning here. I'm going to talk to you about so within money partners, let's just call them joint venture partners. Some of them are money, some of them are mortgage, some of them are different things. You structure them different way. How many partners would you feel you've worked with so far in that realm?
Probably about 15.
About 15, 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Amount of capital ballpark you've raised from those 15, and some of them might be credit and some different things, but what's your ballpark number?
We're probably 1.5 to 2 million so far.
So 2 million. And the reason I ask is I'm actually adding up all the things of all the interviews I'm doing, and the number just keeps growing. Like it's probably well north of 100 million in the interview guests so far. So I'm learning to scale, and I want to scale it too. And this is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation. So you've raised capital. How do you have the conversation? Some people feel the money conversation, they fear it a little bit. Like, how do you talk to people about having that money conversation? Is there any special things you say, or do you get past it, or do you just not feel the fear at all?
Yeah, so it's interesting talking about money with people, because
especially people from Saskatchewan. It's almost like, well, we don't talk about what we got almost. Right?
We just do a role reversal, because it's not me having the conversation to get them interested. It's them coming to me with the money, wanting my deal. So I don't necessarily need the conversation.
So they're trying to sell you why you need to take their money.
Right.
Okay.
So we had landed, the deal was $1.6 million, and great deal. The numbers worked well, but the building turned out to be not good.
Right.
And I told the guys, you can put lipstick on buildings sometimes, but you can't fix structurally wrong buildings. So I just let the deal go, and I said, you know what? I've got lots of deals, just hold patient. So fast forward, like 2 days later, I landed a deal, basically replaced the 24 units with another 12 units, and then we had another 8.
Right.
So same money went from deal A to deal B. Same people were involved. They bet on the jockey and
not the horse.
Yeah, not the horse. And I got a home run. That deal, 43% ROI day one.
Wow. So really, you just are in the market. You're taking action. And all you do is you just share a story. Like we've been sharing for like the last half an hour. You share a story about all the things you've done.
Yeah.
You haven't sold a thing, and you just had a coffee or a beer with somebody. And lo and behold, after you're done the conversation, the conversation turns towards, well, I'd love to get involved with a deal with you. I got a couple $100,000 sitting there, or I know somebody. Can I work with you?
Yeah,
that's the way. That's your model of raising capital.
Yeah, it's fun. Like one RAIN person last year, she joins RAIN, decides to work with me, and she got her PIN, and that was exciting that she got her PIN. It's for buying X number of properties.
Yep.
And we took one particular house. It entered the JV at 30 grand. It got appraised at 185.
Yep.
And we still have a suite to build. So it turned out okay.
Yes.
So, you start building this track record of deals, taking absolutely ugly, distressed property. And in that case, we got a fantastic house that has value and, long-term value.
Yeah. Adding value. Wow.
Yeah. And this is it. So you find the deal, but okay, you can find the deal to add value, but what else can you do as the kicker onto that deal?
Right.
So, in that one, we had a loft in a house and we made another bedroom. Another deal, we had a big bathroom when you walked in a back door. Well, we split the bathroom and made an ensuite into master.
Yep.
So $5,000 extra value here and $10,000 there, bedrooms, bathrooms.
Yep.
It's amazing the little things you can do to, adding a wall and creating $10,000.
So imagine if I sat there and I had the probes and looking at a microscope looking into from your ear, and you're looking at a deal, you probably just see walls moving and money raising, and then ching ching, the little cash register goes up with the value. You probably just have a different way of just, when you see a house, you just look at it differently.
Well, it's so true. And it takes, you get into the first, and I was so naive, and you don't know what to do. You can't move a wall, and you get into the second, the third, the 10th, the 20th, the 50th. And you after a while, you look at the square footage, and it's like this box. They're all a box, and this box
with
has the size of 3 bedrooms, but it's 2, and all of them have the same floor plans, the same area of house in the same areas, sort of have the same house. It's just built, but one might have 2 bedrooms. So how do you make the 3rd bedroom? Well, the square footage is there, so just make the 3rd bedroom out of the square footage.
Did you play with Lego when you were a kid?
I loved it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had suitcases full of those things.
So many, like a lot of people would just forget about the hidden value in all these properties. I've done lot subdivisions. Wow. I've subdivided yards off of places. I've consolidated lots. Made a ton of money doing that.
Yeah. So really, your quote unquote superpower, secret sauce is that you see the hidden value. You monetize the hidden value. You create money off of real estate, and people come to you with capital because they want a part of that.
Yeah. It's absolutely. One JV partner, the guy, I won't mention names, but the guy's a mechanic, and you think, here's a mechanic, he's not going to be able to help. But, never judge a person, by their job, because you just don't know until you really know the person and what value they offer. So in this particular story, we started with 3 houses, and it was an agreement for sale. So I didn't even put up cash to buy the houses, moved all 3 houses, put them on land, refinanced out plus money. But as a kicker to the 3, we actually got another 2 for free. And one of them was an acreage. Yeah. So I sold the acreage. But this guy keeps thinking, the goose keeps laying golden eggs. Yes. And it just keeps going and going. Closed the house for $10,000 on a big lot in a great area of Nipawin.
So for where most people would just kind of dismiss and throw those markets away, you actually look at it and go, yeah, I can own this market. I can be the big fish in the small pond, and I'm okay with that. So far, now you're jumping ponds a little bit too.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when I got in, people don't necessarily treat the rental game as a professional business. Yeah. And when you have, professional manager in each market and repair team, and you're doing everything sort of in your system, it works. Right. And it's scalable. And so you can jump from, one market to the next and keep repeating. Right. And so I'm buying out distressed landlords because they don't like the toilets, or they don't like the tenants, or they don't like whatever. Well, I'm not the guy dealing with that. I'm the guy dealing with, good people, fixing problems, and, move on. Wow. And scale. I moved into this new market maybe a year ago, just not quite a year ago, and we got close to 50 doors there already. So
it's just like you're like sorry for the Star Trek reference, but you're like the Borg, and you're going to different things, and you're just assimilating the communities.
Yeah, well, yeah, and whether I'm in Milford, Saskatchewan, or Toronto, or small town New Brunswick, or in BC, I do a lot of pro bono coaching, and a box is a box, and you got to know the nuances with weather and bugs and that type of thing with structure, but it doesn't really matter. You can repeat these systems, and the coaching is so applicable. I've got a young guy out in the mountains in BC, and the same model can so well be applied there as in my town. Wow. And it's just recognizing where's the opportunity and how do you run with it.
Wow. Fantastic. Yeah. So in this next segment that we're going to come up, we're going to talk a little bit more into kind of how you structure your deals with your investment partners, like ownership splits and who puts in what, and just kind of, we're just going to have a conversation about, the qualification, maybe your structures, and then also maybe paperwork and things like that. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty simple, but I want to, because I just know you're just straightforward, and it's, for the most part, it 100 hinges on the trust, 100% hinges on the trust. But that's what we're going to do right upcoming on the next segment. So we'll be right back, guys. All right. Welcome back, everybody, here with Trevis. Trevis, it's like you're just weaving this story and this journey, and it's like there's ups and downs and twists and turns and a car chase and a bank robbery and all this. It's fascinating. I hope everybody can just see Trevis's passion coming through with a lot of this. But one of the principles I talk about is you need to be known for something, right? And you've become known as somebody who gets deals done and gets good deals and makes money. But it wasn't that way right from the beginning. Some people going, well, it's just Trevis. He's got all this experience and he's a unicorn, right? He's one in a million. And would you say that I know you are unique, but what would you say to somebody who's just starting and maybe doesn't have the experience you have yet?
Well, the big thing, I put a quote on my computer, and that's maybe a good starting point here. Yeah. And it says, fear is holding you back. And so many people are scared to pull the trigger. They're scared to do something, and they're scared to take action. And I've never really had fear. You got to keep going. And farming really taught me to overcome a lot of hurdles, and massive, massive hurdles. I remember one night we're combining, and our oats were going maybe 160 bushels to the acre. And, that night the wind blew and it took 60 bushels off the crop. We come back the next day and it's 100. So you lost 60 bushels to the acre on 1,000 acres times the price of $3. It's a lot of money overnight.
Wow.
Or the hail comes, you lose $1 million overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been able to deal with huge challenges with farming. So when I get into real estate and you deal with, maybe a toilet or whatever it is, it's just, they're small.
Mm.
And I say every day there's, a whole bunch of stuff and it's hitting you and hitting you and hitting you. And you got to keep getting back up.
Yep.
And
get knocked down 10, get up 11.
Yeah, just I've been knocked down so hard so many times that just you don't worry about it anymore. It's just, a dead appliance, a dead furnace. I got to watch how I say this because we've had some tenants, not so pleasant things have happened.
Yes.
But you think life moves on and you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It never will be easy, but pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and you've learned a lesson.
Yeah.
We talk about the $644 I made for 2,000 hours of work.
Yeah.
If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Yeah, it's tuition.
Yeah,
it really is. And what is or Callum Ross says is he's never lost money on an investment. He just paid some higher tuitions on some properties. So
and it's okay.
Yeah. It's nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, I think it's necessary. So if you actually haven't had some massive and some big failures and some big challenges, you actually haven't either done enough or you haven't been in the game long enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You get a JV partner, and I haven't actually worked with a lot of JV partners. I'm probably maybe 10% of my portfolio is JV.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into there and all of a sudden the guy doesn't come through with his commitment. And it's like, now what? Well, you got to get to the end. So how do you get to the end? Well, figure it out. Sit back and look at what you have. Maybe some things have to shift and you have to not go so fast, but you get to the end.
Yeah.
Just rejig and it'll be okay. At the end of the day, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. And, at a worst case scenario, if you have to, some people say, well, what about my reputation if I can't close? If it's, your reputation, that can be fixed, right? It's time will come, people will get over it, but those kind of things, nothing will be that dire that you will not be able to overcome and come back, and quite frankly, come back even stronger.
Oh, and it's so true. Like my friend, they say it's not all daisies and daffodils. Like it's, you get knocked down, and the thing is, if you're in the game, you just keep going, and you get up to the bat and you hit lots of single. You get to the first base lots and lots and lots, and the odd time you get to home run.
Yes,
and the more you're in it, the more the home runs or grand slams you get, and they're happening, and it's like every 6 months I'm getting a major now, and you don't see it necessarily coming, and it's like boom, you're in there. You don't know what that person brought to the table. You bought them, they had a free lunch, but all of a sudden you got this massive deal, and it's like, wow, this is exciting.
Yep. Success swinging singles is what I call. And then lo and behold, most people are sitting there only at the plate looking for the grand slam. And in the meantime, Trevis has bought, in 6 months, you've bought another 24 places. And then all of a sudden, boom, then the grand slam still comes. And so both of them, each of you have got one grand slam, but in the meantime, you've also got 24 other properties on top of it.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I've never been one to flip because in my market, I actually can't make money flipping. I probably sold 15 properties. Mm-hmm. So in my market, it doesn't work. I don't actually really believe in flipping. I would believe in flipping into my portfolio. Mm-hmm. So long-term buy and hold. Yep. Stable, boring. You got to do the same work to fix the house. And 90% of everything I got is fully renovated. Yep. So if, I'm flipping, but then in the back end, I'm getting cash flow. And I don't care if I buy lots of, random assets. If your goal is cash flow, start getting them so you don't actually, you're not forced to sell, forced to flip to bring cash flow in, or forced to maybe, work that job. Mm-hmm. Like get 10 of those houses producing whatever and live frugally. Yeah.
Well, a flipping model in business could be a way to generate the down payment income to buy a buy and hold place. Yeah. And I know some people that do that quite successfully. In some markets, you can't rent them. in some markets, but quite frankly, it looks like you found markets that you know that they're just pure cash flow markets, and you are getting appreciations, and you are getting all the pay down and all the wonderful stuff of that as well.
Yeah, every market's different, and it's sort of figuring out your niche in your market.
Yeah, perfect. Joint ventures and structuring your deals. So people are coming to you. You got lots of deals. People are, well, how can I give you my money and things like that. So how do you typically split your deals? Do you just do things on a joint venture? Now there's going to be lots of questions and conversations. So give some thought to how you structure your deals and maybe ownership positions on who does what and things like that. So do you have a standard model that you use, or do you kind of just do a whatever, each deal is unique and go from there? So lots of talk. There is a question in there. So how do you structure your deal?
So the beginning JV, we got to back up. The summer I did the 7 modular homes. Yep. Number 8, actually, I had money and I was going to, keep going. And I randomly had a phone call from a realtor, and she said, you got to come to my office. I have a deal. Mm-hmm. And we bought a 33,000 square foot foreclosed meat processing plant. Now, it had all the equipment in it. It had been federally inspected, and it looked maybe messy inside. Mm-hmm. And I still don't know what a lot of the machines were. So you ask, how do we structure a deal? Well, in that deal, we needed to say yes immediately. So how do you have the cash to pay cash for this massive, large building full of meat equipment? So what I brought to the table was I brought a team and history and knowing how to solve the problem of repositioning this building. Right. So we created industrial leases. So that's number one. The other person brought to the table the fact that he was an expert in meat equipment. Okay. So he came into the deal and he actually sold off more or less all the machines. Okay. So, here out of Milford, Saskatchewan, we're loading meat equipment destined for Lima, Peru. Crazy. Okay. My joint venture partner. Yeah. And the third person, comes in as the realtor, an expert in, buildings, but an expert in leasing. All right. So we put 3 people together with sort of minimum money, but by having the 3 of us, we made a very successful JV. Right. So that's interesting. Farming wise, we have the land and the buildings, and the other guy has the machines, the know-how, and the people. Right. So different. So we're not really talking money there. We're talking, bringing a very strong team and a very strong base of resources. So not always, most people think that the only resource that's needed is money, and that's the missing resource always. Because typically, most people, that's what they think. That's what they think in the lenses that they're looking for. It's only money that's missing. Yeah, and a lot of the time, it's not the money. Yeah. It's like, I'm dead in the water if I needed to sell all this meat equipment. I have not a sniff what it was. Right. So that's the point, is bring in the right team to get it done. So moving forward, so people came to me because they had money and they wanted to do stuff. Yep. So what I've learned now is, I took some partners on that maybe couldn't qualify or maybe are older. And that can be a challenge if you want to grow your joint venture. So if you're 40-ish like myself and you're taking on 65-year-old JV partners, they're looking to another stage. Right. And you could actually have a lot of equity in certain things and you can't use it to grow. So that can become a problem. So be very aware of, maybe the ages. Yes, everybody's on different stages and phases. Yeah. So then how do I structure my deals? So right now when I come in, a lot of people will go and raise money. They'll break the building. So say a JV partner gets 50% and the guy doing the deal gets 50%. Well, I'm actually pretty good because a lot of people might buy a ready-to-go property and do a 50-50 and somebody buys the deal. Well, I'm doing a really messy deal because I'm creating so much equity. So generally a person puts in the money, I find the deal, but then on the back end, I try to give all the JV partners money all back. Right. Really quickly. And then recycle. Yeah. And then just keep them going and keep it going. So really, I structured as, and this is what I'm going to share tonight, and you may be aware of this or not. I counted 4 things. There's money, mortgage, management, and mastery.
So for this case scenario, if I was splitting this out, the actual how to put the deal together, the mastery of it, the deal of what's in Trevis's head, that's the lion's share of the weighting is on how to put the deal together. The money sounds like it's actually quite irrelevant almost.
Yeah.
Right. And then mortgaging, sometimes there's a little bit of value there, but also the management too. So there's you got the systems in place. So yours is more very heavily weighted to the actual good deal that's being put together.
Yeah, and the more of these I do, I realize that I was doing so much work, and I'm so non-traditional. You know, people say this is how you do a JV. Well, you don't know until you've been there.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, you could go and do 15 deals with random people, and then you realize, you're out of time because you're so heavily on the management because you're the master.
Yeah.
So now I'm realizing, okay, how do I compensate myself because I'm the master and because I'm the manager? And that was maybe the missing part.
Yeah.
So we'll just allude back to the Pierre Paul model. When he buys apartment buildings, cleans up the problem, refinances, pulls equity.
Yep.
So when I got JVs, I take their money, I put the JV money into the deal. We'll do a very, very creative deal, and then we'll return the money.
Right.
So it's sort of the same as the apartment deal. But so that's part number one, is trying to get every dime every time.
Yeah, every dime, every time, and the velocity. Nice.
Yeah, and I was going to say velocity.
Yeah.
So that's, what a lot of people forget is velocity, because you could sink $100,000 into a deal and it takes a year, but you could take that $100,000 and recycle it 6 times and keep going. But so velocity is number 2. And then on the third is, if you got these assets, how much cash flow are you getting out of owning the assets is the number 3.
Right.
So it gets really interesting, once you start hitting 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is no real, you don't really have, a lot of people just want to have what's the cookie cutter answer, and they want the process. And yours is, you're like water. It flows. It's very fluid, right? And how it's structured, and each deal, it's got its own uniqueness.
Yeah. So there's sort of 2 things, and I'm not exactly sure how yours are, but you have a JV agreement on the top.
Yep.
Now that's, in Saskatchewan, we register them through information services. So there's like a provincial registry of joint ventures. So you could have...
so that joint venture gets registered on the title, or you can actually, there's an entire registry of joint ventures.
Yeah, well, it's like a corporation. It's essentially equivalent of a corporation, but it's a joint venture.
Okay.
So as an example, I have Thompson Logistics joint venture.
Right.
That joint venture files income tax every year. That JV is made up of A, B, and C.
Right. Yeah. I've in some of the conversations we've had, they'd be like unanimous shareholders agreements in essence, right? There's essentially a joint venture agreement with articles of incorporation attached to it as well. So you incorporate the JV, right?
Sort of. Okay. They have the JV agreement for the joint venture, and then you can have 3 corporations own the JV or persons.
Yeah, so if you and I were to do a deal, there would be a joint venture, and that would be an incorporated entity.
Registered entity, yeah.
Registered, and you could hold that via a holding company or a personal, and I could hold my shares either way I want, whatever way works for me too.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so I think we're talking the same thing.
And then the next part of that, so we've got this, and then if you got a whole series of deals down here, or the umbrella if they're up here. So you got house 1, building, all these series. Yep. So each of these has a memorandum of understanding. Yep. So then you got the terms of the deal in a memorandum on the top. Yeah,
memorandum understand. It's very similar to expression of interest or letter of intent, or it's not a legal document, or is it in your case, is it a legal document?
Well, they're written up and signed by the people in the joint venture.
Yeah. So everybody agrees to it, signs it off. But those are just like, it would be like an addendum to the agreement. In essence, each deal has its own
but
MOU.
You start doing a lot of different houses, and, one might be easy, one might be hard, and the splits might change.
Right.
So
then each memorandum of understanding has its own unique splits and money in and things like that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm a non-traditional JV person because my deals are generally quite complex in the single family world.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you have like this overarching registered joint venture agreement that kind of has a lot of boilerplate templates and standard exit clauses and all the lawyer mumbo jumbo. Sorry.
All done by the lawyer.
All done by the lawyer, yes. And then each one of the deals has its own memorandum of understanding that spells out the particulars of that transaction.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So, and then the other sort of nuance in here is some people get in and you do a project and, you don't know what the exit necessarily is on the day one, but I've been doing projects and they say, well, funnel the money in as the project comes along. And you don't necessarily have a separate bank account. So I've made that mistake. So now you need a separate bank account for each project with every different person instead of having your main company and getting the money flowed through.
Right.
It gets way too complex on the one end.
So you, and how you learned most of this is you had personal advice from your accountant and your lawyer because you have other business holdings and other business interests. And we never did complete the story. Do you still own the travel company or did you sell that one off?
Yeah. So actually the year previous to the, doing the JV on the farm, we sold the travel company.
Okay.
So that doesn't exist. But, that said, I've always loved traveling and I continue to travel an awful lot. It's just been fascinating.
Well, that's what people from the prairies, they just, they get the travel bug.
So
being by those oceans that we were in the prairies, right?
Yeah, I got to back up on this. And, why am I, an action taker and why could I, maybe a great negotiator, great at doing deals? Well, people say, why are you good at what you do? And I say, it's the markets of the world. I tried to hit 100 countries by the time I was 40 traveling, and I'm just about there. But that said, when you get into a random country of Oman or, going all through Asia, Thailand to Malaysia, Indonesia, going to South America, you're always dickering, whether it's on a hotel room, a car rental, buying food or buying a pop in Europe or whatever. You're always making a deal. You get deals done and they have to be quick. So, that's number one. The number two is when you're traveling, you get into the most bizarre situations. So how do you handle yourself in, crazy place? One is when you lost the prop when we were in Antarctica. So, are you of the right mindset that you can deal with, adverse scenarios? And, I very well am, because I've, overcome so many travel hurdles.
Right.
You'll always get out, it might not be pleasant at the time. In the end, you'll look back and it's like, what did I learn and how do I move forward?
And I know I would imagine with you, you just keep your wits and keep your calm and cool. And I don't think if I check the pulse, I don't think the pulse gets too high. Probably you were most nervous ever when you were just getting married just recently.
So interestingly, when I stopped farming and I, joined Rain, started doing real estate, full time, now all of a sudden I had the time to do what I wanted. And that's sort of the biggest takeaway here is, I never needed to buy investment rental property, residential rental property. I'm doing it because I love it. It's just this game and, a passion of it. But the bigger thing is are you living the life you want to live?
Yep.
And are you maybe living life on your own terms?
Right.
When I started doing what I want, now I absolutely am. It's awesome. When I told the story to Russell and I told it to Rain, the year after I was farming, I had a girlfriend and I booked a trip to Europe. I was with the girlfriend and we walked on the beach just outside of in Italy, just outside of Rome. And on that beach, I picked up seashells. And the seashell to me is a symbol of, doing what you want, when you want, and living life on your own terms. And I'd given Russell one of these seashells. And to me, it's really meaningful because if I didn't go to that Rain meeting and if I didn't take action to change my life, I'd probably still be, sitting in that tractor, still working long hours, still not getting away when I wanted. And, up to the marriage, not having, a wife today. And moving forward, I want to have children. I want to keep traveling. I want to, keep helping the community. So doing what I love.
Yeah, and I just thank you for that because number one is that seashell was just so heartfelt and the message that you'd shared of giving that it was just such a heartfelt gratitude thank you that you gave. I actually keep that seashell, and I can't remember how long ago was it now. It was. Did you say?
So I picked up the seashell in 2013.
2013. So we're talking 5 years.
Yeah.
I actually have that seashell on my bedside table on my lamp right beside my bed. So I see it every night before going to bed, and I see it every morning when I get up. And it's just a reminder of such a heartfelt thank you and a gratitude. It just reminds me of gratitude is what it does every day.
I think it's reciprocal though, because if I didn't have great people in my life, such as Russell, like the gratitude's both ways. I wouldn't be where I am now, far from it. I wouldn't have, beautiful wife. I wouldn't maybe have the beautiful life. Like it's awesome. Now I can hopefully go sailing in a month with my wife. Like this is crazy.
Yeah.
And to continue doing those things.
Awesome. So what's next for you? I know you shared a little bit about the vision. Are you just getting started in real estate, or are you going to take a little break, or what's next?
I got some interesting things.
So hang on. Time out, one guy. I'm going to just reset the camera because I don't want to run out on this. I think Trevis is just getting rolling here. So I think we got some good stuff to cover here. So we'll be right back. So Trevis, what's next for you? You've got 200 places and you're moving and shaking, and I think you're just getting started. I see the gleam in your eye again, right? So what's the next mountain on the horizon you're going to be tackling?
Yeah, so there's some of these quotes, and it's like, helping yourself, and then helping the community, and then helping the world, and going further and further, and seeing what you can do on a bigger scope, bigger level. And sort of paralleling this, I've got two brothers. I have a twin brother, and I have a brother a year older. Both of them are PhD engineers, very successful. They live in Berlin, Germany. So my twin brother and I have had this goal, and the goal was.
So there's like two of you around out there.
Yeah, but he's expert. They're both experts.
Yeah.
My one brother travels the world speaking on blockchain.
Okay.
Very, very good at what they do, and it's quite interesting. So him and I have this really big goal. It's a race to billionaire. And I'm like, people think I'm crazy. Well, 100 million is actually pretty in reach. And it's not bragging. It's just when you see the systems, it's like, oh yeah, I can get there, and I know how to get there.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time. So can you get to billionaire? And so that's one goal, and I want to beat them. They had a massive tech sale.
Yep.
The numbers are cool. Tech is a whole different thing, and it's like can go high.
Yeah.
It's a big crazy ride. Interesting. So that's sort of one thing. The other thing, I think it'd be awesome to get an honorary doctorate. So not only will there be, my brothers are PhD, so they're doctors. Yeah. His wife is a doctor. Now, I'd like to do that. But you have to do something really notable in the world or in the community to get there.
Right.
So what is it notable that I can do? So, sort of on a smaller level, I started doing a bunch of pro bono coaching. I became the REIA, which is Real Estate Investment Advisor. They, give you credentials. I've never charged for it. I just help people. And because I, wanted to help people, that got me some JV partners.
Right.
That's been interesting. So I didn't go looking, it sort of came to me. The other thing, when I'm involved in my community, large service organization in Canada, it's called Kinsman and Kinetz.
Yep.
Very involved in that. Got nominated off the floor for deputy governor. So that's the top in the province, simply because I'm too busy. Not the right time for that right now. I think at some point it would be fantastic to do that. I looked through I got married here. We put a Facebook post on, and people that, congratulated me was like the national president, the Alberta president, the Saskatchewan. So you get involved in a community of like-minded people wanting to do better. Right now we're building a park in our community. That's exciting. So that's, a thing. And if I keep growing enough in different ways, I can help the community.
Right.
A secondary thing, I fund 6 scholarships. Fairly small, but, I set them all up on my own. I self-fund them. And I want to keep growing that. I'd like to, maybe double the amount or do more in different places where my real estate is. So that's exciting. I love giving back and helping the community. So on a bigger thing with RAIN or with real estate groups, I'd like to maybe start traveling, speaking to real estate groups about what I've done, sharing my story, sharing how to get ahead, and showing people that a guy growing up in a town of 50 people can do, maybe an extraordinary thing or reach an extraordinary level.
Wow.
Russell, you're from a very small town yourself.
Yeah, I just drove through there today and took a picture of the family trailer. We grew up in a trailer park, and it's abandoned. It's completely derelict. The entire town is just, there's no one there. I actually had a little tear in my eye driving through it.
Yeah, so I mean, we're both Saskatchewan people, and like small town, and done incredible things. But inspired so many people to do incredible things as well. And that's where I'd like to be.
Right. Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we probably align a lot in our conversations. My governing core values of my life is to inspire, encourage, and always come from a place of love. And I can't think of a better conversation, and maybe even a really good place for us to end this off here was you've been... you've just, the way you've lived your life and the way you've governed yourself and the way you show up and who you touch and all the people that you've come in contact with, you leave a lasting impression. And I honestly think that we need to get you out to a bigger audience. And that's one of the things, in our small way, what we're trying to do here. I think we're going to get you out to a bigger audience. I think the world needs more Trevis McConaghys.
I'd say the world needs more Russells as well.
Well, we're going to have a lot of bromance going on here soon. So, but I wanted to just honorably and humbly thank you. You are a true inspiration, and I just love the story, and I love your way of giving back and helping others and the scholarships and things. I didn't know all those things, and I didn't know those, but I'm not surprised in the least at all, because that's who you are as a person. So just maybe a couple things. First of all, where can somebody get a hold of you? I know you're a very private guy. You probably don't even have. Do you have a website? Do you have contact information?
I have no website. I am on Facebook.
Okay,
not regularly.
Probably Trevis. It's Trevis McConaghy. And how do you spell the last name?
McConaghy at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. So if anyone wants to reach out to him, by all means, give him a shout. Sounds like you help, and just unconditional help. Some people always have conditions on the help, right? And
I'm just the guy that comes out and does it, and it's actually amazing. Like I look at our Saskatoon, and we've become a really close group in the last year and a half, and we're just getting started. It's amazing what's going to come. I even feel like the bigger community I'm working with, it's you see the little guy and how he buys his first door, and then buys 3 doors, buys 7 doors, and just to see them sort of come out of the ashes, it's amazing. And I just love helping, love watching people. But then, on the back end of it, what are they doing with their life? James Cannell is an example, and many of you might know him, but he takes time off and goes skiing, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I have a friend that spends 30 to 40 days a winter skiing at Panorama. It's, these amazing things because they've structured their life, with their family. Maybe it's, whatever they love doing, they're just doing more of it.
Wow. So I always end it off, and I honestly think that might actually be a good place to end it there, but I always will end it off on this, and you can pick a camera. Probably this one over here is probably the one that's going to be really tight on you. What's one final inspiring message you would like to leave with people watching this, that maybe someone's feeling a little bit stuck, or they're just not sure what to do next, and they go, man, I don't have an answer. I'm looking for something. What's something that you can say that would just be a wonderful inspiration for someone?
Well, I'll give you a couple quotes I had, and the fear is holding you back. I look at that every day. Never be scared to take action. If you got to hop on the plane to fly to Calgary for a night, I did it. I took the leap of faith. Do it. Immediate decisive action. The other thing, and I'll repeat this: live the dream, live your dream. Yeah. Do what you want, and bring others with you on the journey.
Yes,
it's such a better journey when you can. Be around the people you love, or the people that you choose to be with. Yeah. And that's what, life's all about. It's not, your legacy isn't your dollars and cents at the end of the day. It's what you're leaving the community. Are you, leaving it better than when you came? Yep. And, I hope my town's a better place because of it. I hope the community's a better place. And, I absolutely, I'm having fun doing what I'm doing. I'm, I think it's great to, the business I'm in, providing great place for people to live, and working with great people. So I'm just loving the journey.
Well, and that stems from the leadership you're providing. And when are they're going to name a park after you in Melfort? Maybe? Yeah. That probably doesn't matter to you, other than just having a beautiful place to have a picnic or something.
Yeah, we're actually naming the park we're building, and I want to name it after a community leader. So
there you go.
Not me, but we'll have maybe a discussion to find
maybe
somebody.
Maybe it could be Bronco or something, because that was right during that was where that pretty close to that area was that horrific accident happened and things like that.
Yeah, it's amazing how small things can have such a large ripple.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And your wife's home here, and the next door they still have the sticks out that I noticed. And so it's just beautiful. It's very heartwarming to see everybody's support of something like that as well. So.
Yeah, so coming from small town. Very small roots. We're, humble prairie boys. And, now I'm in the city buying apartment blocks. Like, I would have never guessed it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, holy smokes, this is amazing. Yeah. And friends of mine are, doing the same. They're buying big ones in Chicago. So just because don't limit yourself because of, lack of, money, knowledge, time. You can figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, you said something about, don't be afraid to hop on a plane and go somewhere and do something. I am extremely grateful that you made the time, and I'm grateful that I made this trip out here, and I'm thankful that when I texted you, you picked up and you answered, and we had a chance to have this wonderful conversation, because I think I know you on a different level now, and I thought I was impressed before. Man, you've blown me away. So thank you, Trevis. Thank you. This is Trevis McConaghy. Sorry about that. It's always McConaghy is the one, is the easy one that people have. So more interviews to come, guys. We're just getting started. So make sure you put a comment in there, reach out to Trevis if you're interested in having a conversation. But most importantly, where you're watching this, put a comment below. And Trevis is now part of the program. You're part of the Academy as well, as one of the contributing providers. And I hope you maybe can provide some answers and some insights for people on the private Facebook group. We'll get you on Facebook. We will. So we'll see you soon, everybody. Bye for now. I sure hope you enjoyed this in-depth training video, and I applaud you for sticking around right to the very end. I believe in people that show up, put in the work, put in the time, and effort should be rewarded. If you're interested in taking the next step, if you're interested in going deeper and mastering what you just learned about in this training video, I encourage you to check out the Raising Capital Academy. So if you have found that you've received some value from the YouTube channel, or maybe you've listened to a podcast, you're only scratching the surface. That truly is just 1/10 of 1% of all the content and materials that have been created that are waiting for you on the other side. So I encourage you to check out the Raising Capital Academy. There's more than 100+ hours of video content, audio content, exclusive training material for those that are interested in taking the next step, those that are interested in going towards mastery, those that are interested in moving forward with velocity. So I would encourage you, wherever you're watching this video, around this video will be a link where you can check out all the details of the Raising Capital Academy. After you've checked out all the details on that page and you're interested in moving forward with velocity, click on the link that will take you towards the application. This is by application only. This is a community program and is for serious action takers only. So if you want to step up your game, if you have goals and dreams and aspirations for more, if you'd like to make a difference in the financial futures of the most important people in your life, I highly encourage you to check out the Raising Capital Academy. Click on that link and you'll be taken to the next step in the process to see if you qualify to take the next step forward for you. Hope to see you on the other side. Bye for now. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed that video. 2 simple things to do from here. If you're interested in continuing your journey, interested in continuing to become a successful real estate investor, just below where you're watching this, there will be an opportunity for you to subscribe. And if you're interested in continuing your journey, there is a hand-selected video over here for you. It's been hand-selected for you to keep your journey going forward. Thank you very much.